Welcome to Bubbler.
Hello and welcome to Bubbler Podcast. Bubbler Podcast is committed to providing water cooler conversations to help make you the life of the break room and office party. Kerri, how the hell are you today?
I am great. I'm excited today to talk to you. I feel like we've got a lot to chat about.
Well, you and I talked earlier this week, and we both watched the Brat Pack documentary, Brats, on Hulu. And for some reason, all of a sudden, all this John Hughes stuff keeps popping up, and John Hughes adjacent stuff. Like I heard Rob Lowe in a recent interview said that they are working on a sequel to St. Elmo's Fire, which is kind of in the works. And even though that wasn't JH's movie, still kind of part of that whole Brat Pack genre. We've also read some stuff about and talked about a little bit on what holds up today in movies and music and television. And John Hughes, even though he's no longer around, he seems to come up in a lot of these conversations on things that we still replay and celebrate from the 80s and 90s that may or may not hold up or be politically correct today. So I think we should talk a little John Hughes today. What do you think?
I love it. That is my childhood, those John Hughes 80s movies.
There are some early John Hughes films that didn't really know fell under the John Hughes umbrella. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, what was your first John Hughes film? And did you know it was your first either at that time or even when you became a John Hughes fan as a teen?
Actually, never knew it was a John Hughes film until we started talking about this. Mr. Mom with Michael Keaton, and apparently it was his first leading role too. So that was our first taste of Michael Keaton, which is pretty cool. Mr. Mom was my absolute favorite movie growing up, and I had no idea it was a John Hughes film. Just the fact that he was home with the kids was hilarious to me. My dad worked my whole childhood, and it was a traditional mom didn't really work. She worked a part-time job, worked a little bit during the day when we were at school, but for the most part, it was a very traditional mom does all the housework. Dad works until 6 o'clock. Mom makes dinner for him, keeps it warm type of situation. So the thought of my father actually cooking and cleaning was hilarious in itself. But then to see Michael Keaton put it on the stage there and just I thought it was hilarious. And my brother and I watched it all the time.
You know, what's funny is because we're going to talk about our favorites or our favorites right now. But if you think about Mr. Mom, it was also my first, and
Mhm.
I did not know at the time, and I actually saw it as, like, a little kid with my
Yeah.
parents at the movies. The whole premise of the film that makes it funny is the working mother, stay-at-home dad. At the time, 1983, that was not common at all. It was like you said, you automatically related to the dad character, Michael Keaton's, as far as, oh my gosh, if my dad had to try to cook dinner, this is probably what it'd be like.
No, he doesn't even know if we have pans. Even today, I don't even think he knows there's pans in the kitchen.
Definitely a boomer, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Old school. That was funny to you. And there are things we still quote today. Mine's the gun one when he goes, "What'd you shoot him with? Was that a 38?" He goes, 38, 39, whatever it takes. That has just become part of the zeitgeist and what's out there when you're joking about, I really don't know what I'm talking about. You go back to this 1983 film and quote that. And there's a ton of other things. And I kid you not, I don't know why. For some reason, whenever I'm in the tuna aisle, I always
Mhm.
picture the schooner tuna commercial and him holding up the little American flags.
I was doing a little research on the movie, and I didn't realize that they used the term furloughed, which was a term that really came out during 2020. But he was furloughed, and we did. Unfortunately, I had to furlough a lot of people during COVID, so it just kind of popped off to me. I was like, oh wow, he was furloughed, and I don't know. It just seems like such an odd little thing, but kind of caught my attention. But you know what? The other thing about that movie is why the adults thought it was so funny is all of the chasing that was happening, right? So her boss was trying to get with her, and Michael Keaton's character had the mom, the sexy mom, who wanted to get with him. But it's funny, as a kid, I didn't really pick up on that part of the storyline. I was more obsessed with the wubby and the kids and the dad just not being able to do anything, and the iron, his grilled cheese wasn't hot enough, and he just took the iron and
Yeah,
heated up the grilled cheese with the iron.
he warms up the grilled cheese with the
With
iron,
the
which I think
iron.
was in all the ads, and
Yes.
I think that scene is also, like you said, one that just resonates when you
Yes.
think of it, or like I
Uh-huh.
had forgotten about it until you just said it, and then I could visualize it the second you said it, just the dad. He was starting to get his groove on though at that point, and that's how he just heated it up. One of the best 80 montages of all time is him getting his shit together from being the complete failure dad to super Mr. Mom. There's so many classic things that were used in that film. It was well written. It had certain tones, and it's one of those films that you can watch it basically, like you said, at different ages and pick different things, because absolutely was not aware of all the skirt chasing and the boss chasing, the inappropriate boss and all
Mhm.
that. But then when I saw it later on, the first thing I thought of is, oh, wow, this is hilarious. It's kind of like a soap opera. And then they have him falling asleep watching the soap opera scene.
Yes.
So it was them like the whole time saying this is a soap opera. Get it? A completely different viewer experience that I'm
Yeah, I
watching
think
it.
that part of John Hughes writing, and I think that's what makes everything really be classic, where you can watch the movie and see different things. And I think from different perspectives, depending on where you are in life, I think that's part of the fun of his movies. I know
And
we're
it's
gonna,
almost like it's an homage to the Warner Brothers cartoons where they always
yeah.
had the hidden double entendres. I always liked the ones that you could tell were really geared more towards older kids and adults. Like whenever they would do the House of the Future cartoon
Oh, I
and
love
things,
those.
those were
Yes.
the best. Uh,
Yes.
and those were the ones that had a little more in them for our parents, a little more wink, wink, nudge, nudge, know what I mean, know what I
Hmm.
mean type of stuff in
Yeah.
them. We could talk about Mr. Mom all day. It's hard to say you have a favorite John Hughes film, but let's talk about what is your favorite John Hughes film right now, and does it hold up?
This is really hard, and you asked me this earlier in the week, and I just could not decide. So I actually went back and I watched a bunch of film. God, how do you pick? There's so many good ones. I landed on Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and I think this goes back to exactly what I was just saying, where you are in life, okay? And I never really appreciated this film. I noticed that it was on the top of a lot of people's lists. Apparently, it is a Thanksgiving tradition for a lot of people as well, which I also did not know. I watched it, and I had to watch it 3 times because I'm old and I fell asleep. And I thought, this movie is not holding up because I keep falling asleep. I think that's just because I was tired. I don't think it had anything to do with the movie. But I really don't think I understood the movie until this last time I watched it. So classic. Steve Martin, by the way, is my favorite. I met Steve Martin years ago. I always equate Steve Martin, and I feel like I have a theme here about my dad, so that obviously is important to me right now, apparently. But Steve Martin, whenever I see him, reminds me of my father because growing up, my dad had his comedy record,
Oh
and
my God,
will
yes.
excuse me, with the arrow going through his head and stuff. And I just remember as a kid listening to that. And so whenever I see Steve Martin or I hear his voice, I just immediately equate him to my dad. And my dad has similar features and grayed really young. Always had gray hair, my dad, growing up, even when he was young. So, anyways, so Steve Martin has like this super place in my heart. So anything with him in it is perfect. So you said, does it hold up? Absolutely, it holds up. It
I
is a
think
thing.
it's become a classic, like you said. It is a
Absolutely.
viewing tradition because it seems like one of those films is you almost love or hate it. I don't know a lot of
Okay.
people that are just like, because I've always said, hey, who wants to watch this? Because I like it around Christmas time or Thanksgiving either. My wife does not care for this film at all. Well, she's a selective Steve Martin fan, but Father of the Bride is like one of her favorite
Oh,
movies of all time.
yes, me too.
Mine too. She provided dozen the remake when they did. That's one that she and I have watched together a million times. But for some reason, she doesn't like him. And I think it's really that she doesn't like John Candy as much. But I love it. I think it's a classic. I think it beyond holds up. I think
Here
it's a film you can appreciate more and more because, like you said, it means different things depending on the stage of your life.
it really does. But here's something that was funny. Last night I watched finally finished it after 3 tries. And I'm watching it and all of a sudden I realized that it reminds me of my favorite movie of all time, which is Tommy Boy. And I was like, "Oh my God. This is like competing. Like this is the original Tommy Boy." Like I never really like you got two guys who are very different, stuck in a car, destroying a car. Both the cars at the end had four wheels and a radio. I mean, I was like, how did I not enjoy this movie when I absolutely love Tommy Boy? And I don't know if John Candy, if that's where I just didn't resonate, he didn't resonate with me. I don't know, but I'm gonna have to watch this over and over again. Now I'm gonna make it a tradition because Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is definitely my favorite right now.
Fat guy in a little coat. I could watch Tommy Boy a million times. My son and I, that was one of the first movies we kind of bonded over. As far as my fave right now, I kind of wanted to be Mick the Instigator. It just so happened when we started talking about this, it was the most recent John Hughes film that I had watched. I think I watched it about 2 weeks ago. And it is also the one that has received the most pushback for not being politically correct. And yes, I'm talking about 16 Candles. It was in the press 2 or 3 years ago, maybe more, but I do remember that she actually was interviewed and talked about the first time she watched it with her child and that she was really nervous about it right before and then while they were watching it. And she realized that there was a lot of stuff that does not hold up today as far as being socially aware or acceptable. Just kind of the general consensus. There are some things that don't hold up well. And the big one that everyone I think agrees upon is the Asian stereotype long duck dong. Well,
But
all I
he's
can
fat.
say, but I'm gonna let you say your part because we're gonna pause here and I'll let you talk. As I'm saying, long duck dong, I still think that's funny.
It
But
is
go ahead.
funny. I just used that reference yesterday. I literally used long duck dumb reference yesterday. It was, but I said long duck dog because it was a very large hot dog. And I'm sorry, it's funny. And he was fabulous. He's part of the movie, and that's was part of the fun of it at the time. And yes, I understand it may not be politically correct now. And maybe it doesn't hold up, but it's still, I mean, it's part of the movie and it's classic and it's funny.
I don't think there's anything that's bad enough that the film should be quote unquote canceled or whatever. What do you do? Say no streaming service should show this? That's ridiculous. There's so many films that are out there that are a million times worse. I am very new to becoming aware of racism towards the Asian community. Like until the violence that took place in 2020 and 2021 came to the media, I wasn't aware of it. So I think I'm a little more sensitive to it just because it's new to me. I still think the classic
He,
line, Ted comes down from the bunk bed, he goes, "What's happening, hot stuff?"
hot stuff. That one too.
That's just
He
fucking
was just,
funny, and I don't think
he
there's
was a good
anything inappropriate
character.
about it. The one grandpa says you're Chinaman's on the lawn.
Yeah, like that's not cool, but
Like, maybe you could do a little overdubbing for, like, TBS, TNT, but don't mess with the unedited versions. I don't know. There is some massive misogyny in the film. There's
huge.
definitely rape culture. A lot of the lines or the pieces that are the most inappropriate actually come from Jake, the cool kid's character, but it's even him being like you think it's him being nice. The passed out girlfriend's upstairs and he says to the geek character, "You go have my way with her 1,000 different times or whatever." And you're like, "Oh, well, good for him. He's not gonna go date rape his girlfriend. And, and then the fact that he gives his girlfriend to the geek with his car, and they supposedly they sleep together and she's okay with it. Like, it's all weird. It,
It's a good movie, though. I mean, it really is. And we talk about seeing it from different perspectives as you get older. In a way, this movie does hold up in the fact that you're talking about teenagers. And yes, they're going to be a little more sensitive in different areas as it relates to how we're talking and treating. And I still think there's still part of that teenage growing up, and some of these things are still happening. It's just probably not as it was in the 80s, right? I don't know. I think this movie holds up, but yes, I think it definitely has some problematic pieces.
I think problematic pieces that can be addressed. You and I, were on the exact same page as far as where's it relevant. It's showing the different parts of being a teenager.
Uh-huh.
And some of it you look back and you can be nostalgic and go, that's so silly that we were like that. As a parent, want to watch it with your kid and just say, hey, you kind of talk about our age difference. Let's watch what it was a classic film when I was a kid. But let me tell you a couple of things that I am aware of. We can talk about it more after the film, but there's some misogyny, there's some things, but that was the culture I grew up in. And that doesn't mean it's okay today. But just see, if you want to know what it was like when mom was in high school, this is actually a fairly accurate by movie standards snapshot. It's,
Well, yeah.
you see, for me, and some of the jokes that are great, again, watching it from where you are in your life, you look at it as a Gen Xer, for nostalgic reasons. Some of the things that weren't even that funny are funny now. He bet a pack of floppy disks on whether or not he'd make out with Molly Ringwald's character. Floppy disks were a lot of money back then, because so the
So funny.
technology, and then you see what the geeks have when he visits them in the house. There's just a lot of it that is, I think, great for nostalgic purposes. And I actually think you could tell your kids, yeah, there's some pieces here that I don't agree with. This is a pretty good idea of what it was like for me growing up.
Did John Hughes, he did 16 Candles before. That was Molly Ringwald's first big movie, I think, because he did Breakfast Club after that. Yeah. If you put 16 Candles where there's a lot more kind of, I'm going to say comedy, not that Breakfast Club didn't have its haha moments, but where that's more comedic, more fun. Breakfast Club is more, in my opinion, more serious. But those two movies together, I think really do put that time, that in the 80s, teenage, in my opinion. And throw in weird science too while we're at it. Then that just right there is our teenage years, Mick.
It's, what it is. And well, no, you're absolutely right. And then again, let's not even talk about weird science and the building a girl and all that.
Oh my God.
We do need to narrow that scope a little bit and say that 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, and Weird Science are a great snapshot of
Mm-hmm.
growing up in suburbia and being
Yep.
white.
Yep. Oh, yes.
So this
Yes.
is a
That's
white
fair.
suburban snapshot of the mid 80s. Define the mid 80s to the point that that is where Vacation was his first big hit after Mr. Mom. So he had Mr. Mom, then Vacation, 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, European Vacation, Weird Science, Pretty in Pink, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Those are all 1983 to 1986.
And I can tell you for sure, I did not see any of those until later in the 80s. Maybe Ferris Bueller I saw when it came out, but I absolutely, other than maybe Mr. Mom, like I said, because that was the first one, I don't think I saw any of those until later in the 80s.
Of
Um,
those, the first one I saw in the theater was The Breakfast Club. And
you did?
and this is funny.
Really?
I was young. The group of friends I was hanging out with,
Rated R?
and yes, so here's how I remember this. We're all as a group going on a Friday night, and I'm the only one that was under 17 in the group, and we'd been drinking, and we're going to see it. And I go up to buy my ticket, and I'm like, do I get the kids' ticket price?
Oh,
Almost
God.
busting myself trying to go
Mick.
into a
Oh,
rated
my
R
goodness.
movie. I think I was 16. So that's the only reason I remember. And I saw it at the Dollar Theater. So it could have been 1986 before it was in the Dollar Theater. So it was
Yeah,
the
maybe.
cheap ones.
The Breakfast Club for me, I did not appreciate that movie until the 90s. I don't really think I saw it and understood it until I was older. We've talked about this before, but I grew up pretty, not, I don't want to say sheltered, that's not the right word, but I was a good kid. I wasn't drinking at 16. I wasn't trying to get into R-rated movies like you were. I don't think I really appreciated that with The Breakfast Club for what it is until probably the 90s.
I loved it when I saw that I was in high school. It got in the underage, underage and rated R film after a couple beers. I was
Right.
living the life.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
so
Fist pump and all.
I don't think you could really say there's one best John Hughes film of all time
Ugh,
because I do think it varies on the time. But
it does.
pick
It
a
does.
couple other than Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. If you were, we're not going to discuss them in detail, but if you were to pick two that you think have to get at least acknowledged as some of his best work, take out anything we've discussed.
I think you have to just give credit to National Lampoons as a franchise because you've got Vacation, you've got European Vacation, which was hilarious. If you haven't watched European Vacation, please watch it. It is so funny.
It ages
Um,
better than at the time. It was a
it's
disappointment at
good.
the time.
It's so
A lot
good.
of people think Christmas Vacation actually saved the franchise, and maybe it's because it's the one I watched only once or twice when I was younger. European Vacation absolutely, I think, aged better than when it was actually out. And part of it too is there's a lot of young future famous actors in that
Uh-huh.
film. The kids are always a different age, played by different actors.
I know. I love that. I love that. That is one of the things I think is so funny is the fact that the kids are different and their ages are different. It's just hilarious. I have to go back. Did you ever watch the original National Lampoon's Class Reunion? I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yes, yes. So when cable first became a big deal, this was one of those movies that was played all the time on Showtime.
I
Yeah,
didn't have Showtime.
I didn't see
That's
it in
why.
1982, but I remember the two great rated R movies that were on Showtime, like when I was in early middle school, was Class Reunion and the R-rated version of Excalibur. Like you had to sneak to watch those because if your parents knew you were watching it, you get in trouble. And there was a comedy horror film that was on those channels at the same time called Student Bodies. And so it was that early 80s boob humor type of stuff
Yeah,
that I did not know until actually today that Class Reunion was his first hit. I did
that's
not
it.
know that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back. I'm sure I've seen it at some point, and I just don't realize I've seen it. But you mentioned some of the old actors that are in these films. When I was watching Planes, Trains, and Automobiles the other night, I was like, "Is that Kevin Bacon?" He's got like this random cameo at the beginning, hailing a cab, and he gets the cab from Steve Martin, and I'm like, "God, talk about 6 degrees of separation, Kevin Bacon here."
You know what that was, don't you?
No, I don't.
That was them doing a little cross promoting, and he was supposed to be the guy and she's having a baby. He was his character in making a quick
Mick,
nod.
you're a genius. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he played the same, and he didn't really do anything other than the guy that took the cab, but that's him playing the
That's
same
right.
character
He
that
was
he
She's
played
having a baby.
because those 2 movies were filmed around the same time.
And I always think that the girl in She's Having a Baby, always think it's Molly Ringwald, and it's not Molly Ringwald. It's Elizabeth McGovern. Always, yeah, okay. I forgot that was John Hughes too. Hmm. Look
Yeah,
at
those
that.
were back to back. That was his tear, man, from 1983 until like 95 or 93. I think it was 10 years that he was in beast mode. I
Okay,
actually
so tell
jotted this
me,
down. I picked 3
you picked three?
because these are the 3 that depending on my mood and
Okay,
that
okay,
stage, my favorites. Vacation was in the top 3.
okay.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was in it. I had big letters classic today next to it. And the only one we didn't mention that is a lot of people's favorite is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I actually saw that in the theater with my parents at a sneak preview screening. Oh my gosh, I just loved that movie. It holds up well today. I know people that have written their doctorate using Ferris Bueller's Day Off as an analogy in business relations. Probably his best film, but don't email me and blow me any shit because you could easily bring up another one and state your case, and I'd agree with you.
Well, and it's just too hard. It's really too hard because we also have Home Alone. I mean, that movie was fabulous. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah.
Were you talking about Uncle Buck? I mean, Candy and Uncle Buck. Oh my
Oh,
God.
my dad
So
was a
good.
big John Candy fan. We talked about that. SCTV, the McKenzie brothers, which was Strange Brew. So
Yeah.
anything John Candy. Dude, I even went to see Vacation Rental and the movie theaters, which was probably one of his worst movies. And there was like two people in it. The only movie that I was the only person on back in the day that I went to see is I did go to see Weird Al Yankovic UHF in the theater, which
Oh
was
my God.
just an atrocity, and we shouldn't even include it in this conversation.
I
But
can't even believe it. Wait, you said
if it
that
had John
and you
Candy,
said,
let's get back to John Candy. No, we're done.
wait,
We'll talk
but the
about Weird
fact
Al some other time. But
the
John
fact that you
Candy,
brought
if
up
he was
Weird
in it,
Al,
I
hold on,
saw it, and that's all I'm going to
hold on.
discuss on this episode.
Oh my God. But you also brought up Bob and Doug McKenzie. I just want to make sure
Ooh,
that I heard all that.
Oh, you came here with the mouse in the beer bottle, and now you are the mice in the beer. Oh, a fucking Strange Brew. Are you kidding me?
Oh
Rick
my God.
Moranis.
I
Oh man,
know.
Uh,
Oh my
great stuff.
gosh.
Maybe we'll edit
How
this
did you
out and this will be separate. I don't know. But anyway, so back to it all. Yes, Uncle Buck.
Huger.
Saw that in the dollar theater as well. Great movie. Don't know that it holds up very well, but John Candy could do no wrong in my eyes back in the day.
Yeah. God
And
bless
maybe that's why Planes, Trains, and Automobiles holds up so well, because you get just sentimental about John Candy in general,
Uh-huh.
and he plays a character
Yeah.
that you can care about,
Just
and you're just kind
lovable.
of like, oh, but Uncle Buck probably doesn't hold up that great. Not John Hughes' best film, but at the time, friggin' loved it.
It was, yeah, it was fun. That's the beauty of the John Hughes films. They're fun, and for the most part, they hold up. You get to see them from different sides, depending on, how you're feeling, your age, a different look.
Absolutely. And if you think about it, I mean, some of the stars in his films that weren't as great or didn't do as well, you had Jennifer Connelly in Career Opportunity. That film was about being locked in Target overnight. But oh my God, Jennifer Connelly, I had such a crush on her. Dutch with Ed O'Neill. Not
Hmm.
a very good film, but I went to see in the theater, loved it. Curly Sue.
Oh, that's
Uh,
so good.
but a lot of people forget that John Hughes, because of the success of Home Alone and then doing Beethoven, he did a really long run of children's films.
That's the Menace.
He's attached to
Hmm.
all those titles that belong to the Dennis the Menace family of films. His big classic was remaking Miracle on 34th Street. He did a remake of Flubber. I mean, he went out there and did quite a bit. I think his body of work speaks for itself. I don't think there's anything in there that's unforgivable. And if anything, if you want to be smart about it, and you and I are both big on don't present the problem to me unless you're coming with some alternative solutions.
Solutions,
The
yeah.
big solution here is you can absolutely talk to your kids about these films during the films, before and after. Really talk about, hey, these are the things that you might have noticed, or because we didn't, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of underlying theme about rooting for the underdog, that it's never as bad
Hmm.
as you think it is. Appreciating your family. If you want to judge him for his body work for anything, there's a lack of representation in it. This is a great snapshot of suburban white America in the 1980s. So go into it knowing that, because if you're looking for representation and inclusivity, no, it's not there. This is Chicago. This is the Chicago suburbs in the 80s. I think there's a lot to talk about here. So have fun at the water cooler. And I'm going to be honest with you, Kerri. I think I'm going to cut out a little early today, grab some popcorn, and start my own little John Hughes marathon at home.
Oh, that sounds fun. I'm gonna do the same.
All right, man. Have a good one. Take care.
See you later.